Hello. Hi, guys. So many people here today. Thank you for joining us. Let's begin then. So my name is Mila, and I am a customer service team lead at SiteGround's. I will be your host today for the webinar. Again, thank you all for joining us. So before we begin with the important stuff, let me give you some important notices. The webinar will be about 1 hour. We'll try to fit in the presentation within 40 minutes, and then we'll have some Q&A time. So if you have a question, make sure to post it in the Ask a Question section, which is on the left side of your chat, and we'll go ahead and address it later. Everyone who registered for the event will get an email tomorrow with the link, so you can rewatch it at any convenient for you time if you want to. And of course, you can subscribe for our YouTube channel so you don't miss anything new from us. And let's begin with the important stuff now. Here with me, I have Daniel Kanchev, who is a product and technology lead for SiteGround. Hi, Danny. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Hey everyone, happy to be here with you today. A few words about myself before we get started with the technical stuff. I'm Daniel, and I currently lead the organization structure within SiteGround that is responsible for releasing all of our new products, the maintenance of all the products that we currently offer. And to give you a few examples, web hosting in general, performance optimization upgrades such as the CDN that we will be talking about, security add-ons such as our site scanner, and pretty much anything that you can take advantage of by using our services. I've been with SiteGround for 13 years now, I think. Probably they will become 14 soon. I stopped counting. A little bit personal info about myself. I'm a father of two girls. I love traveling the world. I'm addicted to extreme sports, and I love going to concerts all around the world. So pretty much that's it about me. And let's move on to the actual topic, which is our new CDN service. And before we start digging into more details, Mila will tell you more about why we have decided to host this webinar in the first place.
Okay, thank you. So we decided to hold the webinar to give you some background on how and why we decided to develop our own SiteGround CDN system. Why you should use it, what's the difference between the different versions, because we have a basic version which is included for free in all of our hosting packages. And then we have a premium version as well, which is a paid. So we'll give you some background stories. So we'll give you some more information on how the idea actually came up. There is no better person actually to tell us a little bit more about that than Daniel, because he and his team actually were leading the project from the start to the finish. Daniel, why did we decide to develop our own in-house CDN in the first place?
Yeah, so before I go into details why we decided to build a CDN, I would like to explain what a CDN actually is, because I know that many people from the audience, they could probably not be aware with the abbreviation, what's a CDN, what's its purpose, why you need one for your website. So what exactly is a CDN? Means Content Delivery Network. And in order to explain how a CDN works and what's its purpose, I want to show you that diagram here. And on the left side of it, you can see how your website works without a CDN. So basically, your website lives on a server somewhere around the world. We do offer several data center locations, and when you purchase our services, you can select your website to be hosted either in the US or Europe or Asia. We have a data center in Australia as well. So all the people opening your website, they are connecting to the server that hosts your website, the server that holds your database and your files. And if you have your website in Europe, our data center in the Netherlands, or for example, London or Frankfurt, and you have clients from the US, they need to open the website. The packets they're sending when they're opening the website through their browser, they travel the big distance between the US and Europe. And the other way around, if your website is in the US and your users are in Europe. So without a content delivery network, all the users opening the website are opening that website from the specific server that holds your database and your files. And what CDN does is it caches parts of your website or the whole website and all of the pages that are part of your website, if that is possible, locally on servers that are close to your visitors. So instead of everyone opening the website from your origin server, then they're opening the website from the closest server to their location. And that's the beauty of CDN, because if you attempt to open a website that is hosted in Australia, for example, it will take a long time for all the data to be transferred from the server to your location, which could be somewhere in North America. And in many locations throughout the world, people do not have fast internet. So that makes even more sense when we're talking about users that are located in areas, remote areas where the internet connection is not so good. So connecting to a server which is close to your location is very beneficial to the speed of your website. And it also helps a lot about local representation because you don't need to wait a lot. That is good. So the more locations that your CDN provider has, the better. And I'll tell you more about that later. But for now, the big picture that you just need to get from that slide is that instead of many people opening the website from one server, you can enable CDN and copies of your website will be distributed around the globe whenever people request that website. So pretty much that's what a CDN is. Now, let's get back to your question, because I've spent 5 minutes on explaining what a CDN is. But the question was why we decided to develop our own CDN solution. We've been offering CDN services for a very long time. And we have partnered with other companies in order to do that. And on top of it, our clients have been using even more other CDN providers, not the ones that we've been partnering with. And what actually we saw was that those users that are using the CDN often had issues integrating the CDN because they need to manage the hosting from one place and then to configure CDN settings from another place. And different CDN providers have different configurations that the site owners need to apply. Like, for example, in certain cases, when you enable a specific CDN provider, you need to go and reconfigure all of your images to be loaded from specific URLs in order for those images to be loaded from the CDN. And we had the feeling that it's not the most optimal solution, because in the first place, users were asking for support. And in other cases, when we had users using CDN providers that we have never heard of, in that case, we were like a proxy. So the user needs to communicate with our support team, with the support team of the CDN provider. So users really need to just click one button and have the CDN enabled. One of the other things which is very important is that when you have your CDN separate from your hosting environment, the data that is taken from the backend hosting server, which holds your files, is delivered from that server to the CDN provider. And there is a small issue here with that. The issue is that the network between the CDN provider and the hosting server could not be so fast, because those two providers could be using very different data centers. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you're hosted with us, and by hosted with us, your website is utilizing the Google Cloud network, because all of our hosting services, they're based on Google Cloud. So we're using their infrastructure. And let's assume that you're using a CDN provider that is not using Google Cloud. So data needs to leave the Google Cloud network, and after that travel distances and go through networks that are not owned by Google to reach the CDN servers that will be able to cache those files and the pages that you have. And that's not optimal, first and foremost, because that traffic is slower that way, because both service providers use separate networks. And the other thing is that actually traffic costs money, and many providers limit that. They could ask you to upgrade to a higher plan in order to have more bandwidth and stuff like that. So that's another thing to consider. And if you're using our CDN, which was also one of the main things that we've decided upon, the CDN will be using the same network. So all of the CDN locations throughout the globe that we have prepared as part of our service are using the same premium network on top of Google Cloud. So whenever someone opens your website, let's say from Australia, and we do have a CDN edge in Australia, the CDN edge location in Australia will use a private network connection to our data center, which will be, for example, in the United States. And data first will be transferred faster through that network. And it will also utilize certain optimized paths for delivering the data from the hosting server to the same CDN edge in the same network that is also managed by Google. So by that, we are cutting pretty much the performance overhead, which you have by using different providers. And we're also making the website faster and data travels securely through those networks. So native performance, that's one of the things. We have more control over the whole thing. We can support it easily. And we do offer easier management and configuration for our clients. So given all of the above, we rolled up our sleeves and decided, okay, we're going to do that. It's a huge project. It actually took about 1.5 years to put everything together. And the engineering part was about a year, probably. Before we were able to launch the CDN, we actually needed to do something else, which was a big challenge. And it is related to another service we launched before the CDN, and it's called our Central DNS.
Can you tell us a little bit more?
The Central DNS. So what is DNS? Many people have heard of it. I'm not going to go into many details, but when you type in your browser SiteGround.com or your personal domain name, what actually happens is that your computer needs to resolve your domain name in order to know where is this website hosted, what is the IP address of the server where the website lives. And this DNS system that we have developed is the foundation for our CDN. So in order to use our CDN, you need to be using our Central DNS. And the Central DNS, what it does is it practically detects where the user connecting to your website is located. Where is this user? Is it in Australia, in Europe, or somewhere in Singapore, South America, North America? And when the DNS detects the location of the user, the DNS knows also where is located the closest CDN edge. And then the DNS says, like, that user needs to be forwarded to open the website from the closest CDN location, which could be somewhere in Asia or Europe or the United States. So when we launched the Central DNS, that was one of the big challenges there. So we started working on the CDN. We were like, okay, we need a system to figure out how to identify where users are. That's where the Central DNS came in action. Other challenges that we had throughout the development of the CDN is how to make it easy for clients to use that. I'm not sure how many of the people attending the webinar today have actually seen the interface of our new CDN product, but it really boils down to just click a button and that's it. It has default settings for certain things. For example, how many hours will keep copies of your pages on the CDN, like automatic flush of cache from the CDN locations. But those are all things that you can control. By just clicking one button, you can enable the CDN for your domain name, and that's it. The next time you open the website, you will be forwarded to the closest location, and you will see how much faster the website becomes. Other challenges that we had during the period of the development of the CDN was optimization and even more efforts put into making those websites fast. It's easy to cache static resources like images, CSS files, and JavaScript files and stuff like that. But it becomes much more harder to cache like a whole website and everything related to that website, like the home page, the product page if it's an e-commerce website, And that was also a big challenge for us. Another thing that we've seen that it was problematic throughout the years with some CDN providers is management of SSL certificates. Many providers require you to upload manually your certificate for your domain name to manage it on two places, like the CDN part and the hosting part. You need to renew the certificate and upload it, and not to forget to do that. So we also automated that process. Whenever we issue a new certificate for your domain name, we automate the process of deployment of the certificate across all servers part of the CDN network, like hundreds of servers. That happens automatically. And other settings that you can control from the panel that I mentioned, they're also automatically distributed within seconds. Another big problem that people have been facing is that they need to clear the cache and they don't see the new content, the refreshed content immediately on their website. So in terms of efficiency of the underlying control panel of the CDN, that was also a thing that we had to address. Once the development, the active research and development was over, we actually jumped to a beta period. So we decided, okay, we're not going to launch that for everyone immediately because it's a really big change. And we want to be sure that we haven't missed something. So we've been testing it with internal websites, personal websites of people working for SiteGround. We've been testing it with some of our internal knowledge base websites and training sites, and it was okay. We made many tests with different applications like Default, WordPress, Drupal, PrestaShop, WooCommerce, e-commerce sites. But of course, you never know like what could be all the edge cases that people could have. So during that period that we were running the CDN in beta, we approached many high-profile clients with bigger websites, and we asked them, are you willing to use that service for your website? Right now it's free. It has all the functionalities that will later be probably divided into a free and premium version. I'm going to explain about those a little bit later. So I think we got, I don't remember the exact number, but it's tens of thousands of websites using the beta period. We got tons of feedback that helped us shape the final product.
Okay, and is there any interesting data from the beta period that you would like to share with us?
Yeah, so one very interesting thing for me specifically was that people shared many observations about how easy it was to use the interface. But from a technical standpoint, it was very useful for us to see how traffic got distributed among the different CDN regions. So no website is similar to another website. It's not only the design, but also the users, like the international traffic. Some websites get lots of local traffic, other gets international traffic from around the world. And what we saw was that, for example, in places where we didn't have data centers, like, for example, right now, we do not have a data center in South America. When we enabled CDN in locations that we did not have data centers in there, like the response time for end users, it improved drastically, like 6 times, 8 times. For some websites, it even improved 10 times. I was testing with a website for one of our clients, which was a news website based in the US. And I'm located in Bulgaria, which is eastern part of Europe. And from here, that website opened without the CDN for approximately 900 milliseconds up to a second. And when we enabled the CDN, the closest location to Bulgaria is Frankfurt in Germany, which changed the response time for the homepage of the website to something like 85 milliseconds on average. So it dropped 10 times and even more on certain pages. That was a big improvement. And during the beta period, some users found actually bugs that there was no way we could have found ourselves. The beta period showed us how the customer should be always in the center, and we should always test as much as possible. And the other thing that was also very useful is that we didn't have like 100% clear picture in our head how much we need to scale the different CDN regions. Every CDN region needs to handle a certain amount of traffic. And that amount of traffic varies a lot between the regions. Like in Europe, which is a small continent, I was very interested to see how the traffic will be distributed. If you're in the west part of Germany, you will probably go to Frankfurt, but if you're closer to the border with Poland, you could go to our CDN location, which is there. And that helped us a lot during the beta period to plan the capacity, like to know how many CDN edge nodes we need. Otherwise, we could have under-provisioned the CDN location. And if that happens, then you cannot scale automatically to handle the traffic. So yeah, many useful things came out from the beta period, and I'm glad we did that.
Once the beta period was over, we pretty much announced the official release of the SiteGround CDN to all of our clients. Most of them will be interested to know, is there any benefit and what this is for them to use the SiteGround CDN over any third-party service.
I already mentioned some of them, but I would like to wrap up again to say what the main benefits are. Every product that we develop in-house is around 3 pillars. First, we would like to make it as easy as possible for the user to use that service. We know a big percentage of the people out there that are purchasing our services, they're not developers, they're not designers, they don't have knowledge about systems and system administration, programming, and stuff like that. So the first pillar is that the users don't need to configure many things. We need to give them just the smart defaults and allow them to change some of the things that are part of the product if they want a little bit more flexibility. But usually 1 or 2 buttons, clicking them and enabling the thing should be enough. And everything should continue working as expected. You enable the CDN, and if something happens that you don't expect it to happen, like your email stops working or your FTP is not working, then we have a problem. So the first main benefit that I see right now is that our CDN allows you to use the power of content delivery network without too much hassle. Like you click a button and it starts working, and there are no unexpected things that will happen. And we've always been performance freaks. If you open our blog and you start scrolling down and see all the old posts that we've been posting for the last 15 years, you will see that every now and then we introduce a new service that will improve the speed of your website. Like we change the hardware regularly. We've invented our full page caching that works by default right now. We regularly introduce new things such as memcached for object caching and stuff like that. So that was the next logical step. And the big benefit of using our CDN is, as I've said, that it is based on the same cloud network which uses our hosting services. So by utilizing the same private network, we do offer faster performance compared to other services out there. And I really do believe that by managing those things from one and same place, you're saving yourself lots of issues. So you don't have to go to 2 places to manage one and the same website after all. And the other thing is that it's built in-house. Many companies don't follow that philosophy to build things in-house because it's easier to just grab something and integrate it. We've done that again with other services, but sometimes you just have the feeling that it's better to do it yourself because you have more control. And whenever it's a service that many of your clients will be using, it's better to have full control. Because if something happens, like your whole business depends on it. And as an end user of other companies and other services, I prefer to know that the support team of that specific company will be able to fix an issue with the core service they're offering. Because 6 months from now, a year from now, we will have hundreds of thousands of websites using the CDN, either the free version or the premium version. And for us, it's in our philosophy to make sure that service, which actually can break many websites, is something that we fully control on our site. Because if we don't, then we have a big problem there. This is also something that is very important because every now and then we see a big group of clients requesting something, and I'm sure that will happen to our CDN as well. And whenever it's built in-house, I know we can do it. Like, we've built the whole CDN for a year and a half with the research, and now I know that a new feature to be added will not be that much time, and we can do it. So yeah, those are the three things that I think are the big benefits of using the SiteGround CDN. No configuration, it's super simple to use it, it's blazing fast, and it's in-house built, which gives us a safety net for issues. And I know that we can expand it as much as we want.
Super clear summary. Thank you for that. So we have two versions of the SiteGround CDN system. One is free and it's included in all of the hosting packages. And the other one is premium paid version. So can you give us some more information on what's the difference? Because people may be unsure which one to use for their specific case.
Yeah, of course. As I said, during the beta period, we've decided to just launch the CDN for everyone and give them all the features that will be part of the free and the premium version. So, and gather statistics, what are people using, what's useful and what's not. So the free version can be enabled by any SiteGround client. It doesn't matter if you're using shared hosting or our cloud services and which plan you're hosted on. Again, it's a one-click activation. The free version is limited to be enabled only for your primary domain names. So you cannot enable the free CDN version for an alias or a subdomain name. People usually want to test something out and make it bulletproof for the main website. And it offers only caching of static content. So what is static content? When you open a website, the website is made of images. It has some CSS and JavaScript. So the CSS makes the page pretty, to say it that way, and JavaScript files add behavior to your pages. So for example, when you're filling out a form, a contact form, and it has validation for the forms in there, you're typing your email and you've made it wrong, that JavaScript code is actually showing you that something's not right. So those are static files: images, CSS files, JavaScript files, PDFs, audio files, video files. Those are static files, and they are cached by the free version of the CDN. I'm gonna explain about that a little bit later when I move on to the next slide, but dynamically generated pages cannot be cached as part of this version of the CDN. However, caching only your static files is still a huge improvement, because the dynamically generated data on a page that you open, it's not that much. Let's assume that the whole page is like 2 megabytes or 3 megabytes. A really big percentage of that data is actually static content, because the biggest resources in terms of size on a page, those are the images, the CSS files, the JavaScript files. Like, the rest is not so much data. The rest has another problem, which is like slow generation. Usually the application like WordPress or Drupal or something else needs to get that data from a database. So it still offers a big percentage of improvement. Your website, if it's hosted in the US and you open it from Europe and you don't have a CDN, all that data that I mentioned, that takes up a big chunk of the total size of the website, needs to travel across the ocean. And even without dynamic caching, the free version of the CDN will help you to improve your scoring, your loading speed. We do have an easy button that you can click in order to purge all the cache from all the CDN locations. So let's say that you upload an image or a CSS file, and it's not a new file. If it's a new file, it will be cached and you will see it. But if you are uploading a new version of an existing file and the name of the file remains the same, you have to clear the cache. And we do have a button. You just click it. It pushes all the cached resources on all CDN edge servers across the globe. And we do have a development mode, which was designed for people that are actively making changes to their website and they want to see those changes immediately. So what development mode does is that it disables caching on the CDN layer for a certain period of time, which I think right now was set to 30 minutes. So if you click that button and you start making changes to your website for 30 minutes, those changes will be live immediately because caching will be disabled for that specific period of time. And people that will benefit from the free version, pretty much everyone. It's not only caching of the static resources, but also reducing the time that the user needs to download the data. Because even if the data is taken from a backend hosting server which is not close to you, you will be connecting to a server, a CDN edge server, which is close to you. So your browser will get the certificate for the domain, it will resolve the domain name, and it will start downloading resources much faster instead of going all the way to another continent and after that going back to your local computer. Moving on. So in the premium plan, we have so many useful features. You can enable the CDN for any domain name that you have, like alias, primary domains, subdomains. Let's say that you have a blog which is available on blog.mydomainname.com and you have a shop which is on another subdomain. You can do that. So no limitation in terms of that. We have advanced dynamic caching. What is this? So I briefly mentioned how a web page is generated. Web page consists of static resources, and it also has dynamically generated content. So what is dynamically generated content? When you open your website, the home page, for example, of your website is generated when a PHP script is executed. That PHP script connects to a database and it takes content from the database. I'll give you an example with WordPress. On your website, you have written down some information, like if it's a news website, you have the latest news. And the latest news that you read there is actually text which is saved in your database. So in order for this text to be displayed, when you open the website, a PHP script is executed, it goes to your database, gets the content from there, and puts it on the web page. And that happens every time when you open the website. So with dynamic caching, what we do is once that page is generated, not only the images on it, but everything on the page, we cache the whole page. If you open your domainname.com and that page was previously opened by someone else, which is close to the CDN location, then immediately you will get that page delivered to your browser. So your request will go to the closest CDN location, which in my case is Frankfurt, Germany. And if that site is cached there, immediately I'm going to get a response. And the CDN server will not even connect to the hosting server. Like it will have the whole page cached with all the images, CSS, JavaScript, text on the page, pretty much everything. And that is a big improvement. So the technology that we used here is pretty much the same that we have on our hosting servers. Again, that's our dynamic caching, which is part of our speed optimization service. We do offer that for everyone, and it's enabled by default. But right now what we're doing is that we distribute the cache copies of your pages of the website throughout the world on all CDN locations. So that is something that speeds up a website a lot. As I've mentioned, when we were testing and when I told you that I've been testing with the website, news websites in the US, that's the service that actually made the website 10 times faster. Like this website would not have been so fast without the dynamic caching. And the dynamic caching is the thing that you will feel the most as a user. Like you enable the CDN, you open the website, and the first time you open it, it will be cached. And the second time you reload that page, it will load dramatically faster. So in the premium version, we also have unlimited CDN traffic. I forgot to mention that in the free version, we do limit the traffic to 10 gigabytes per month. So if you're using our free CDN plan and you make more than 10 gigabytes of traffic per month, at some point the CDN will automatically stop working because you have reached the limit. But that limit was determined again during the beta period and by checking all of the websites and how much traffic they generate. And more than 90% of all the websites there, they don't generate more than 10 gigabytes of traffic. So it's enough for all the small to medium sized businesses. If you make more traffic than that, you definitely need the premium version. Two more features here. The first one is that we give you an interface that has several predefined options for how much time the CDN will keep the cache. So it's called TTL, time to live, and it allows you to choose from a list of predefined options for how much time you want the CDN to cache your pages and your files. And by default, it's set to 12 hours. So 12 hours is the value that we decide is not too aggressive and at the same time gives you performance advantages. Because caching is a really hard thing in information technology and software development. And if you set a cache to be too low, then it will be invalidated all the time. So it will make it pretty much something that will not be working. Or if you set it to be too long, like for example 1 month, then you will be making changes to your website and they will not appear for a really big period of time until you clear the cache manually for the whole website. And the lasting part of the premium version here is something called always online. The idea here is that whenever we cache your website and we store copies of the cached pages on the CDN servers, we will deliver those cached pages to you in case your backend hosting server is having problems. The backend hosting server could have an issue or your application could be broken. Like let's say that WordPress has updated or a plugin has updated or you made a coding mistake somewhere in your theme. Things happen. So in that case, the website stops working, starts showing an error message. And if the CDN server, which is close to your visitors, still has copies of this page, this website, even if this cached copy is older than the time to live, the TTL, even if it's older than 12 hours, we will still deliver it to the user. Like the user will still see some cached version of the website. So instead of your users seeing an error message, they will see your website. Like some things may not be entirely functioning on your website because they could be making dynamic requests towards the database or towards another server, but your users will not see an error message, which also helps like search engine optimization, because whenever your website is down, like it could be penalized and stuff like that. With that, I think that we've covered what goes into the free version and the premium. And I think that we can wrap things up and move on to the Q&A, unless Mila has a question for me about something that I may have forgotten.
I think we got it all. So thank you very much for the wonderful presentation. Yes, I think now it's time to get to some questions. We cannot promise that we'll be able to address all of them because we have many questions now, but we'll try to do as many as we can. The first question is, how will the process of activating SiteGround CDN affect existing DNS entries? And how can we quickly remedy these settings? For example, will existing Microsoft 365 DNS entries change once CDN is?
That's an excellent question, because people are worried that by enabling one service, they can actually break something else. And I mentioned that in order to use our CDN, you need to be using our Central DNS. So SiteGround needs to be in control of your DNS zone. If your DNS is not hosted with us, if you're not using our Central DNS, then you will not be able to enable our CDN. And when I say that we have to be in control of the whole DNS zone for your domain name, that's a good thing, because we know exactly how to configure the service without breaking other stuff. Like with the example of Microsoft Office 365, and a similar service here will be Google Workspace if you're using their service for your emails. What actually happens is that you will probably have specific DNS records, like MX records or CNAME records or SRV records for your domain name. And we do change only the DNS A records for your domain name and for www.yourdomainname.com. So by enabling the CDN, we will change the IP address to which your domain name resolves. But other than that, there will be no other changes. So MX records will remain the same, like email routing will remain the same. If you have some custom CNAME records, like for example, I could have configured a CNAME record for webmail.daniel.com, it will remain the same. So all the traffic for your domain name and for www.yourdomainname.com will be routed to the closest CDN location, but no other related services should be affected. So that's the beauty of controlling all of those services, like controlling the web hosting, the DNS part, and the CDN part. Because with other providers, you will have to change DNS settings yourself. Like you could have experience with it, but most people don't. And most people could cause some issues without realizing that. So by controlling all those things and putting everything in one place, we can give guarantees to some extent that we will not break other connected services. If you have connected services that rely specifically on your IP address, which is returned for your domain name, that could be a problem. But to be honest, I haven't seen any such cases for all the thousands of users that are already using the CDN.
Okay, let's go to the next question then. Does CDN work well and refresh quickly on a site where we might change content on pages many times in the same day?
Okay, so that's another good question. I've already mentioned some things related to how fast the caching is invalidated and what goes into configuration related to invalidation of cache. But there are more things that I can explain here. So it really depends on the websites that are cached and using the CDN. The big percentage of our users are actually WordPress users. And for WordPress, we do have a SiteGround optimizer, SG optimizer, and that plugin connects to WordPress in such a way that when you make changes, like you change a post, you change your theme, you install a plugin, or you change some settings on the website, then the plugin detects those changes in real time. It connects to the CDN network and flushes the needed pages from the cache. And it works in a smart way. It doesn't flush the whole page, the whole cache for the whole website. It will flush only the respective pages that have been changed. So for WordPress, it's pretty smart. It knows which is the exact page that you changed, and it will flush the cache only for it. If you're editing an image through the WordPress media library, then again, we'll flush the cache automatically. For other applications, like for example, Drupal, PrestaShop, Magento, Joomla, for those applications, we do not have a plugin that can automatically do that. But the beauty of web standards comes into play here. We do honor something which is called control of caching through HTTP headers. So if your application allows you to set certain amount of time for caching your pages and resources, then our CDN will honor that time. So if you are able to configure HTTP headers for caching, be it through .htaccess files or configuration of your application, and your application sends specific HTTP head to CDN, will honor those HTTP headers. So I will not go into many details here because that's a really technical subject, but we do have a knowledge base article which is related to that. So to sum things up, for WordPress, it works out of the box. No matter how often you edit your website, we will automatically purge the cache from the CDN. For other applications and files, manually uploaded through File Manager or FTP. There is a method to do that. It's not super hard. And we also do have a purge cache button. So you can click it in the interface and it will purge everything. I hope that answers the question.
The next one, do you recommend this service for websites that do not have international traffic?
Yeah, so the benefit is also big for such websites because, as I mentioned, you may not have international traffic in terms of you have users from all around the world. But let's say that you're a business in the US, and the US is a really huge country. And you can have users from the East Coast, from West Coast, from the Central States. So right now, we have a data center in Iowa, and your website is there, but someone opening the website from New York will have to wait some more time compared to other users. So for those users, it makes perfect sense to enable the CDN because we do have several locations in the United States, and those clients will be opening the website from the closest location. They will have a faster connection time. They will have better page speed results and better time to first byte results. They will download content faster, even though that the site owner does not have international traffic. The same goes for Europe. The same goes for pretty much any of the continents out there.
Okay, let's go to the next question. What if I'm already using Optimal?
Is that a plugin for something, or? I guess so. I don't know. Do you know, does the question make any comments about if it's a plugin for WordPress? Let me Google that.
Plugin, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I see that's an image optimization plugin for WordPress. And as far as I see, they also offer CDN for the images. To be honest, I haven't checked that specific plugin, but judging from what I see here, it should not be a problem. Like, we have thousands of WordPress users using different plugins, and those plugins could be dealing with image optimization, could be dealing with anything else. My specific advice is to enable the CDN and see if it creates a conflict between the plugin and how we cache images. But generally speaking, it should not be a problem unless like the plugin is creating some very specific URLs from which images are loaded. In that case, probably the plugin is changing the link to the images in the HTML itself. So the plugin could be working instead of our CDN. But again, this could be enabled. And if the site owner is here with us, then my advice is to post a support ticket, enable the CDN, and see how it works. Our support guys will definitely check that for you and tell you if there is a conflict or not.
Okay, thank you. And I know that we already covered that in some ways, but just sum up again, what are the advantages of using the SiteGround CDN system, other third-party solutions, and they can be used together?
I know there are many people asking, can you show me a comparison? Which is faster? Is it you, or is it Cloudflare? Is it MaxCDN? Is it Encapsula? We got many questions from people that wanted an easy comparison with other CDN providers on the market. People want to know how our CDN compares to the other providers out there. Generally speaking, all a CDN does from a technical point of view is it loads resources from a server which is closer to the user opening the website. From a performance point of view, I'm not talking about security here. I'm not talking about additional features such as image optimization, processing, and streaming of video files and stuff like that. So the main purpose of a CDN is to speed up the loading time for your website by giving you the resources from a closer server. And this reduces the loading time. When you're choosing a CDN provider, you have to consider many things. Like, I think that the most important things to focus on are the following. So the first one, how easy it is for you to configure the CDN service that you have selected, and do you have to dedicate like lots of time to manage that? Throughout the years, when I was a support team member, I've been also dealing with support tickets, and regularly there were people that did not understand what they need to do. Okay, I will configure the CDN, but I don't know what the DNS is. I don't know how it works. I don't know where to control that. So the first thing is, does it save you time? And does it make your website super fast? Or it generates more work for you, more maintenance that will actually waste your time? Because when you think about it, like 99% of our users, they want to get online to sell stuff, to show their work, to have a website. And for that website to be fast, they don't want to spend stuff on managing DNS zones and configuration for CDN. So easy management and configuration is the thing that it's number one on my list. So that's why we decided to make and integrate our own service instead of using one of the existing. Like, our experience showed us that users often have problems with that. The second thing, which is super important when you choose a CDN, is where your traffic comes from, and does the CDN provider that you have selected has CDN edge servers close to your visitors? Because if it doesn't make a lot of sense. I want to explain how we selected our CDN locations that we currently offer. We dedicated about 3 months to analyze the traffic towards all of the sites that we host in all of our data centers. And when we did that, we figured out where are the countries that generate the most of traffic. And we selected our locations to be close to those countries. One example that I can give is that we get very little traffic from South Africa. And Google Cloud, they offer a location there. And we can set up a data center there, we can set up a CDN edge server there, but it doesn't make sense because right now we don't have a lot of traffic from there. And if you are hosted there, it doesn't matter which hosting company you are hosted with. And then you have to choose a CDN provider that will have at least one CDN location there. And right now we don't have, but we are constantly monitoring the traffic patterns. And if we see an increase, we can start offering CDN services and hosting services there. So that's also something very important. So from this point of view, if you get 99% of traffic from locations where personally SiteGround, we don't have a CDN location, then it's okay to go for another CDN provider that will suit your needs best. But as I've said, we did that for our clients. We saw where the traffic comes from for our clients. And looking at the big picture, we've selected 12 or 13 CDN locations right now. They're listed on our website. We can also provide a link to the CDN locations, get in the chat, and you can see that. So that's very important. Moving on to the next thing that I think is super important for choosing a CDN provider and how we compare to the other players. Performance. Many people ask if our CDN is faster. To see a table that will show you that website loaded for 600 milliseconds, for 400 milliseconds. I did get an A+ on Google Page Speed Insights and stuff like that. So I always reply that depends on two things. The first thing is the type of the website you have. Like, how big is it? How optimized it is. Like, there are problems, performance problems with the website that no CDN can solve. Like, you could have blocking JavaScript resources, and that will not be solved by just using a CDN. The other thing that we have control over is the network. So if you use hosting provider A with CDN provider B and they have nothing in common, as I mentioned, we're using Google Cloud. Someone could be using their own servers in their own data center. In that case, that may not be the most optimal solution for you, because data traveling from our hosting servers to the CDN provider could be slower compared to that data, the same data being transferred within the private network of Google, within the optimized network routes of Google. So in terms of performance, I gave you the example where I loaded the website during the beta period and it was 10 times faster. It was hosted in the US. I loaded it from Frankfurt CDN location. It was 10 times faster. And I did make tests with other providers. And I think that the network played a very big part in this case and the results that we got. The last thing that I also scratched upon when I was talking about the versions of the CDN is support. If you're a client of a company and you are using their core services, you need to know that if there is a problem with a core service on which depends your website in your business, they need to be able to help you. So we do own all the code and everything related to our CDN and to our web hosting. And we can provide support for both. If you're using a third party, then yes, it will probably work, but when issues occur, then who you're gonna contact, because you will not be aware if it's a problem with the CDN configuration, if it's a problem with the hosting provider, or what happens if that specific CDN goes down, they have an outage. Well, in that case, you cannot easily switch the traffic back to your hosting server because you have to go change the DNS, wait for DNS propagation and stuff like that. In our case, if something like that happens, like switching the traffic back from the CDN to your hosting server directly is a matter of just clicking the on off button, because you will not have to change DNS settings. Like our central DNS system will just stop replying with the IP addresses of the CDN locations, and traffic will go back to your original server location. So in terms of support, when the company that you have chosen and selected to trust, it makes a lot more sense in our heads to use everything in one place and not another provider. So support, performance, ease of use and management, and of course, as I mentioned, check your traffic, see where it comes from, check our locations. In some cases, it may not be the best choice for you, but for our clients, for our current clients, we do have the locations everywhere we get traffic from, like big traffic from. And again, we're gonna evolve the product. We're gonna add more locations, more features based on your feedback. So my advice is to sign up for the CDN, the free version, test it out. If the premium version sounds like something you need, then go directly for the premium version. If you have feedback, like this whole product is based on feedback. This whole product is around user experience and problems that we've seen with our integrations throughout the years. So just contact us, let us know about what the issue is, and we'll do everything we can to solve it. So having the CDN right now built into our core functionalities and features makes everything so much easier in terms of performance for our clients. So make your life easier with that. And with that, I think that we can wrap things up for today. Mila, do you have anything else to add that I may have forgotten?
That was a very detailed answer, so thank you very much. Yes, we're already over an hour, so we unfortunately will not have time to address any other questions. But it was a pretty in-depth presentation, and I'm sure all of the people here got a better understanding of how the SiteGround CDN works and what are the benefits of using it. So thank you very much, Daniel. Thank you very much for that.
By the way, how many questions do we have on the chat? Because I don't see it right now in front of me.
In the Ask a Question, we have 33 questions at the moment, but we also have others in the live chat that is ongoing while we're speaking. So many questions and many people here today. Thank you.
Awesome. We've done something interesting before. I think we can do it again. We can get a list of the questions and we can answer them after the event. So for all the people that feel we did not answer their question, we can do that. So that's something we can totally do. And people can read the answers somewhere. We'll just put them somewhere online. I think all questions could be answered there, not like hundreds of thousands.
We can totally do that. So thank you all for participating today. Again, I hope the information was useful to all of you. We'll email you a link to the webinar recording tomorrow, so you can rewatch it at any convenient for your time. Thank you very much, Daniel, once again for the wonderful presentation, and we hope to see you all at our next webinar. So stay safe and thank you.
Yep. Bye-bye, guys. See you again next time.